You are listening to the Success Leaves Clues podcast, where we're having conversations with regular people doing outstanding and legacy-changing things in corporate America and entrepreneurship. If you're looking for the blueprint to help you make less mistakes on your journey to freedom and ultimate purpose, then this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Dr. K.
Hey, I'm happy to be here today with Dr. John Burd. Listen, renowned, you're an author of an amazing book that's been getting so much acclaim. Also, you've had the opportunity to be a CEO of a major, what is it, $40 billion company, this huge company, and you're still leading so many other organizations today. I got a question for you, Dr. Burd. Out of all of these titles, which one are you most proud of?
Well, I guess I have to say CEO and founder of Dexcom. That's been my biggest success. And, I'm really proud of that. The other thing I'm really happy about is that I was inducted into the American Association of Clinical Chemistry Hall of Fame back in 2004 or 5. And that was quite an honor, and I'm really happy about that. But Dexcom has a fabulous product for people with diabetes. It's a continuous glucose monitor that allows them to know what their glucose levels are without having to prick their fingers, which is, a painful way to find out what your blood glucose level is. With Dexcom, you just look at your phone and it's connected to the sensor and it tells you what your glucose is all the time.
Now, knowing what your glucose is, how does that help you monitor your illness or even prevent it altogether?
Yeah, what it does is a few things. One is it tells you how the things you do during the day affect your blood glucose levels. And glucose is toxic, so you don't want your glucose levels to be too high. And so if you know you eat a slice of pizza, your glucose shoots up, well, then I'd say, hey, maybe I shouldn't eat that piece of pizza. I should have something else, and I'm a big fan of the ketogenic diet, which tries to get rid of carbohydrates in your diet because glucose is toxic and carbohydrates, when you eat them, turns into glucose in your blood. And the glucose in your blood is a reactive chemical. It's like cyanide. It reacts with the proteins in your eyes and in your nerve endings and your kidneys and your blood vessels everywhere. And that leads to all the complications of diabetes. Lysulin, this new company that I've started that I'm also really proud of, has a product that stops that reaction from happening. So that instead of the glucose in your blood reacting with all the proteins in your body, the glucose reacts with the lysine in Lysulin and forms glycated lysine, and you just pee that out. So it gets rid of all that excess glucose. And it works. We got clinical studies that prove that it lowers your blood sugar and improves insulin function.
All right. So taking this medication, does that prevent you from having to then still take insulin?
Possibly. I hate to hear there are two big types of diabetes. One is type 1, which used to be called juvenile onset, where your body attacks your pancreas and you stop making insulin. And you need insulin to get the glucose into your cells. So those folks, type 1s, have to take insulin. Now, type 2 diabetes is more of a lifestyle disease due to all the carbohydrates that we pound down every day. And that leads to insulin resistance, which leads to diabetes, which eventually doctors love to prescribe medicine. So eventually they start on pills, but then if they don't work, then they might put you on insulin. But I always, every chance I get, I tell people, try Lysulin. It works for the majority of people, and you may never have to try to get on insulin. And for people with type 1 diabetes who have to take insulin, if they also take Lysulin, they may need less insulin to treat their disease because Lysulin targets that glucose toxicity problem. And that's a problem for both type 1s and type 2s. So, but we primarily sell the product for people with pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes. And our clinical studies, again, prove that it helps them better manage their blood sugars.
Got you. This is absolutely fascinating to me, and the reason I'm so intrigued is because I eat pizza. I'm actually going to have pizza for lunch today. I mean, at least that was the plan before you told me all this stuff. So, why is it that so many people don't know about the cause of diabetes and about the toxicity of glucose and things of that nature?
Well, actually, my book that you mentioned, which I just will hold up here, The Natural Solution to the Diabetes Epidemic, The Discovery of Lysulin. It's like a conspiracy book because there are four big conspirators who want to keep that a big secret, okay? And that is the government with that stupid food pyramid that they keep publishing that tells people to have high carbohydrates in their diet, which is exactly totally stupid.
Hey, I grew up on that pyramid. I learned it in school, and
yeah, we all did.
Unfortunately, I've been teaching it to my kids.
If you look at that, was first published in 1980, and if you make a graph of chart if the year is on the bottom starting at 1980 going to the present day, and on the y-axis is the number of people with obesity and diabetes, it's just skyrocketed because of that dumbass pyramid. And so they're one of the conspirators. The other is Big Pharma. They like to develop drugs that treat the symptom, not the cause. And these drugs all have side effects. But doctors don't mind. They say, "Oh, you have a side effect here? Let me write you another prescription for another drug to treat that side effect." You have the food industry that, that food pyramid originally came about because of lobbying from the farmers. They had all this wheat and corn that they had to get rid of. So they lobbied to have, make sure that people eat a lot of, frosted flakes and corn flakes. And then you have the medical community where doctors don't get any training in nutrition, even though the best medicine is food. If you can get off of carbohydrates and lower your calories, you'll have a much healthier life. And that's basically what my book says. And that's how I came about the discovery of Lysulin, which has 3 simple ingredients that are all in our body already: lysine, zinc, and vitamin C. But there's just not enough of it there to have the benefit. So when you take Lysulin, you get high level of lysine in your bloodstream that clears out all that glucose. I hope that's not too complicated.
No, it's not complicated at all. And so the lysine helps you to absorb that glucose. Now, is that something that you should still, change your diet and prevent eating those things? Or is this a solution that still allows you to, eat what you want to eat?
Well, most people have a hard time getting off of carbohydrates. So if that's the case, then, Lysulin can help combat that glucose toxicity. So it helps. And I've got people that use the product that have gotten off other medications and just use Lysulin for their glucose support.
Yeah, I love the title of the book. The focusing on the natural remedy and solution, because, like you said, right now we're a country that's overprescribed. We are, held to the pharma industry, and then they overcharge people for insulin and things of that nature. So, having the population educated, with something like your book is incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. Actually, if you look around, the world is full of people who are obese, have diabetes, hooked on multiple prescription drugs, and still sick. I mean, the drugs are just keeping them sick, So anyway, I also hate to hear people with type 2 diabetes going on insulin. I mean, I'm on a real campaign to prevent that if possible, because that just turns you into an insulin junkie. You need more and more because you have insulin resistance, which means the insulin doesn't work very well. And it's expensive, and nobody likes to inject themselves with things. So anyway, it's a tough road. I tell you, it's like finding customers is hard, and finding investors is impossible. So I've self-funded 2 companies since 2018, and my wife is really anxious for me to find some investors to help me keep them both going.
Well, I would hope that this show helps get the message out, and we can find some investors, because this is something that is truly needed and can really help people.
I'm glad to hear you're a disciple.
I am. I mean, you got me sold. I told you just from the title of the book, I'm all about natural solutions and remedies because I believe it's out there, and I've seen firsthand what Big Pharma could do. My grandmother was diagnosed as a diabetic type 2, and she was able to get off of all medications and things just by changing her diet. And so I know it's possible from witnessing it firsthand.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Congratulations to her.
What gave you the courage, Dr. Burd, to do this when, like you said, it's somewhat lined in conspiracy? I mean, you're up against lobbyists, naysayers, what have you.
Yeah. Well, I guess but really, I guess if the mission is to help people to better health without prescription drugs. So, I got an email from a colleague, one of my co-founders of Dexcom, and he's a doctor, and he said, why don't you work on something important like glucose toxicity? And I'd never heard that term before I got that email, but I'm now an expert in glucose toxicity. And it actually is just a simple chemical reaction of glucose with your protein. So I figured out using biochemistry, I've got a PhD in biochemistry, using biochemistry, how to stop that reaction from causing all the damage. And it's working. So, I mean, I'm thrilled that it works so well. It works for the majority of people. It doesn't work for everybody for reasons that we don't really understand. But then prescription drugs don't work for everybody either. Nothing works for everybody except food.
Right.
Food is the best medicine. Yeah.
So when you received that email, what intrigued you the most to make you go down that one educational journey and then to start investing in it?
Well, actually, the thing that I liked about it was that it's a simple solution to this problem, basically lysine. But I couldn't just sell lysine by itself because you can go into a drugstore or a grocery store now and buy lysine. So I looked at other supplements that help with blood sugar management. And that's where I came up with the formulation that has lysine, zinc, and vitamin C. And I filed some patents, and I've got 7 issued patents on the formulation to prevent copycat.
Wow, congratulations.
You do. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And
what was you doing before you founded Dexcom?
What was I doing before then? Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I started with a PhD in biochemistry, and my first job was working for a company that at that time was called the Ames division of Miles Laboratories, which was subsequently bought by Bayer. And the Ames division was the first company that actually developed home testing products for people with diabetes. They developed a urine dipstick that told you if you had glucose in your urine, which you shouldn't have. And then they were the first one to develop a finger stick blood method to know your blood glucose levels. And they were the first ones to have those products, but their marketing was pretty poor, and other companies came along and just stormed the market. Like LifeScan was the leader in selling individual blood glucose test strips. So that when I was at Ames division, I didn't work on the diabetes projects, but I knew about diabetes. And I was also named after an uncle who had diabetes, and he died of the complications of diabetes. So I've been aware of it for a long time. And then I left that company and I went to California to work for a little startup, because that was the days of Genentech and all the employees making money on stock options and stuff. So that was fascinating to me. So I joined a startup up there. And that's where actually I learned about the business of medicine, because that company had a blood allergy test. And allergists, if you have ever been to one, they want to do skin prick testing. But it turns out you can actually draw a blood sample and get the same information. So that company, Mast Immunosystems was the name of the company, had a little device. It was just an amazing little device that you could draw a blood sample and put it in this little plastic chamber, and it would test you against 36 potential allergens and tell you what you're allergic to. And then we worked with a company to develop shots that you could use to help you with your allergy symptoms. So I was there. And then after I left there, I went to San Diego and joined a company called Quidel, which had home tests for pregnancy and ovulation and strep throat, plus other tests for laboratories and doctors' offices. And I was there for like 6 or 7 years. And then I left to start my first diabetes company, which was called LXN, Lexin. And that company had a meter that tested both glucose and fructosamine, which gives you your average blood sugar over the previous week or two. And we raised quite a bit of money for that, but eventually that was sold to Johnson & Johnson. And then in 2000, I joined a venture capital firm here in San Diego called Windermere Venture Partners. And our first deal was Dexcom, where I found the technology. I convinced the guys that had it at the University of Wisconsin to let us fund the development. And if they took our money, they had to take me as CEO. So I was the founder and CEO of Dexcom. And I was there for a few years. And then I hired my replacement. And he's the guy that really added value to the company, Andy Rasdell. And he, when we started the company, we were developing a long-term glucose sensor that would have to be implanted by a surgeon. And it was supposed to last for like 6 months or a year. And then you had to have it taken out and put a new one in. Well, Andy said we should just do a needle sensor, which you just, with a very small, like an acupuncture needle, put a little gizmo on your arm and it would radio transmit your level. And he did a fabulous job of getting that developed in record time. And there are 2 other companies that have similar products, but Dexcom's product is clear market leader, helping over 2 million people worldwide to better health. Right. So that's that. And then when I left there, I was on the board of a few small companies. And I was also looking at products for chronic kidney disease. And that's where my co-founder, who's a nephrologist at the University of Wisconsin, Dr. Stuart Nielsen, I would send him these products. And as it turns out, the companies that have these dialysis clinics for people that have chronic kidney disease, they have no interest in helping them to better health. They just want to get more and more people into those clinics and get paid $100,000
on dialysis, right?
So anyway, Dr. Updike is the one that sent me that email that said, work on something important like glucose toxicity. So I did, and that's what I am today. Yeah.
Man, it's an amazing story. You got a ton of experience, but I see in your story, like, several jumps and a lot of courage. What made you go from the venture capitalist, when you're going to Dexcom and negotiate yourself being the CEO? Why was it important for you to be the CEO?
Well, that was just the philosophy of the venture capital firm, Windermere Venture Partners. We funded, like, between 2000 and 2005, we started like 20 startups in the healthcare industry. And if they wanted to take our money, they had to take one of the general partners as the CEO to get it started. And then we would look for our replacements after we had moved the product along a ways. So
what type of characteristics do you look for in a replacement?
What
type of characteristics are you looking for when you look for a replacement for yourself? What characteristics are you looking for in a person?
Well, basically, it's fairly straightforward. One is somebody that's got a track record of success in marketing and sales. Because, I take a product to a certain point and it becomes a marketing and sales effort at that point. And I've got a PhD in biochemistry, not marketing and sales. So like with Lysulin, if we find an investor that wants to hire my replacement, I'm fine with that because I'm like 76 years old. So if we get a 40 or 45-year-old guy that wants to come in that's had some experience marketing and selling to consumers, I'm happy to have him join the party and improve our marketing and sales organization. So, and if they can bring money with them, like Andy Rasdell, when he came to Dexcom as a CEO, he'd had a company and he had been the president of Medtronic Medical, and he had a success there. And when he came to Dexcom, he came with investors that followed him. And again, he did a fabulous job. So that's that.
Yeah, it's good that you realize sometimes that you have a weakness, right? You can't be strong in everything. You've got a lot of experience as a biochemist, a lot of experience maybe in raising capital, but you still have to realize that, look, I'm not a person who knows everything, and I'm not strong in every aspect of this organization. So finding a replacement is actually a brilliant idea.
I definitely know that. It's like, I look at it as like the hat you wear, and it's like my hat is primarily research and development, developing products. But then when you get to the selling part, that's where we need help. And I've got consultants, and actually I've got a meeting in about an hour with my main digital marketing consultants that are trying to help me find new customers for both my companies. Actually, the other company that I have that I started about a year after Dexcom is called Wonder Spray. And there's our new label, Dr. Bird's Wonder Spray Skin Rescue. And I got interested in this because the active ingredient is what your white blood cells use to kill all pathogens. It kills bacteria, virus, yeast, mold, and fungus. It's 100 times more powerful than bleach, but it's totally safe and non-toxic. You can spray it in your eyes, your nose, your throat. And if you have any skin problem, it will help it. So if you have a sore throat, you can spray it in your throat and it will immediately make it feel better. I'll show you that right now because I've got this cough. And it helps things right away. And it's good for allergy symptoms as well.
So when we're talking about skin diseases or issues with the skin, are we talking about psoriasis, or are we talking about
eczema, psoriasis?
Eczema. We're talking about eczema.
Burning, itching, any skin problem helps. And like I said, it's also good if you have a sore throat. Spray it in your throat. It'll make your throat feel better. It's a pain reliever and a deodorant. So if something stinks, it's because there's bacteria involved. Like people that have bad breath have bacteria growing on their gum line. Well, you can use Wonder Spray like Listerine and get rid of that and give you fresh breath.
Man, okay. So where do we find Wonder Spray? Is it online in stores?
It's on our website at drbirdwonderspray.com. It's also on Amazon and Walmart.com.
How did you discover or create Wonder Spray?
Actually, when I launched Lysulin, I went to LinkedIn. Anybody that had something about diabetes in their bio, I contacted, introduced them to Lysulin. And one of the people I contacted is a podiatrist, Dr. Mark Hinkes, and he liked the story, liked the science story. And people with diabetes have a lot of problems with wounds that don't heal. And the reason is because their circulation is so poor. And also they get bugs growing in their germ bed, in the wound bed. And he told me about this product called Ultra Mist, which was a ultrasonic gun that used saline to spray on wounds. And he said the healing he got was miraculous. Well, I called the guy that made that product, and he's a Russian engineer and CEO of a company that makes it. And I said, how much does Ultra Mist cost? He said, $30,000. And I said, good Lord, that's way too much. Why don't you develop a miniaturized version? You make it, we'll both sell it, and we'll help a lot more people to better health. And he said, no, I'm not interested. It's like too complicated and expensive. I've got 50 patents on it. So fine, I said. So I went to Alibaba and I looked for a miniature nebulizer, which is basically what that gun was. And lo and behold, I found a little nebulizer that you can put Wonder Spray in the lid, and then you push the button. And I don't know if you can, you can see that coming out. So you can actually breathe it in to get it into your lungs, or you could use it just as a nebulizer to spray it on your skin for skin care. I've got to be careful because the FDA you got to be careful what you say because they'll be jumping down your throat. I mean, they wrote Lysulin a warning letter last September, a year ago, and we immediately got kicked off of Amazon and Walmart.com and our
Wow.
sales dropped in half. So, and it's almost impossible to get back on Amazon and Walmart.com once they kicked you off. So we've come up with a new company and a new name for Lysulin just to get back on Amazon. It's always something.
You're right. they make it so hard to get a simple solution that we need for everyday life. And it's going to benefit so many people. I'm going to definitely not only put a link to your book, but also Lysulin and then Wonder Spray, in the description, so everybody can check that out.
Now, make sure you use drbirdwonderspray.com, because if you just type in Wonder Spray, there's another company that has that domain name. As it turns out, it's a portable butt washer. So that's not us.
No, that's not what they're looking for.
Yeah. That's not helping people to better health. So
no, not at all.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about the book. I wanted to first kind of go through and understand your journey, right? And how you got to where you are. But what I'm thinking about right now is that you've had so much success in helping people financially, running companies, even giving people opportunities, like you said, hiring in a CEO to replace yourself. Like, that is an amazing life and an amazing journey by all accounts. Why would you then write a book? It just seems like you've done everything.
Actually, it's funny. I just got an email one day from these guys that publish books, and they said, "Would you like to write a book?" And I thought, the Lysulin story is worth it, because it's an interesting story, and it's a big conspiracy, and it would make I wish I could get Ron Howard interested in doing a movie on it, but have Rob Lowe play me, but so I just had a friend help, and one of the other editors from this publishing company helped me write the book. So I basically would just write down what happened and, where I was born and what I did and went to school and blah, blah, blah. And they helped me get it into the form of a book. So it's a short read, and it's fairly interesting, I think. A lot of people have liked the book. So, yeah, it's just basically taking one step at a time. That's what my life has been. When I was in high school, I didn't think I was going to go to college. I figured I was in Fort Wayne. I figured I'd get a job at International Harvester and work in a factory. But Indiana University and Purdue University built a regional campus in Fort Wayne. So it was just like continuing high school, and everybody was talking about going. So I thought, what the heck, I might as well go. And I did.
Don't want to get left behind, right?
That ended up taking me to graduate school, where I got my PhD in biochemistry. And I'm so happy that I did it, because biochemistry is so fascinating about what makes us tick,
Absolutely. I'm glad you didn't get too technical or in the weeds and go over my head, but it's been fascinating for me to see and learn and realize that I'm actually doing a lot of things that are harming my health and my body when I think I'm just, having lunch. So
yeah, that's right.
Start working on that.
And relative to the products, if you can give my email and phone number, and I'd be happy to send people products to try if they want to try either Lysulin or Wonder Spray. So, and I guess I mentioned that Lysulin also has a weight loss shake. Did I mention that we now have?
Oh, I didn't know it had a weight loss shake.
We have a shake that is a once a day shake, chocolate or vanilla, and it promises the possibility of weight loss plus better glucose management. And we have those available on our website also.
Yeah, well, I could definitely see how that could tie together when you already mentioned keto, and taking these carbs out of your diet is carbs and sugar are probably what's bothering me the most with my weight.
Well, it's all basically high fructose corn syrup is what the food industry now uses instead of sugar, because it's cheaper than sugar. But fructose turns straight into fat. It doesn't need insulin to get into your cells. It just goes in without any invitation. So, and that turns into fat. So that's, again, high fructose corn syrup is what leads to obesity and other problems, along with glucose. So, yeah.
Great. Amazing products. I will definitely share your information. I got something, Dr. Burd, I like to do on every show. This is the name of the show is Success Leaves Clues Podcast. And so what I like to do is point out a couple of clues that I picked up throughout our conversation that I think might help the audience, become successful. I'm quite sure they'll pick up, their own tips and clues along the way.
Yep. That's great.
So one thing I noticed is that it seems like you like a challenge, and you were already, doing so much, with Dexcom, but you still found, you received that email from your colleague and you said, you know what, there's another challenge out there that I feel I can conquer. And, facing those challenges helps you to be so much more successful than you would have been, in complacency or something like that.
Yeah, it's problem solving.
Yep. And then we talked about how, go ahead, Dr. Burd.
The other tip I have for people that want to start a business is you got to have a unique product and if possible patented in a big market. So there's a big market for it. And you got to have a management group that's had some experience. And that's what venture capitals look for. Unique product, big market, management. And if you got those things, in theory, you should be able to find some investors, although I think the investment community all seem to be hiding under a rock these days. So,
yeah, that's the hard part. Where do you find them?
Yeah, exactly. So,
but yeah, leadership is definitely important, and you point that out throughout our conversation too. How you find your replacement, you find good key leaders who are strong in areas that you're weak in, and that helps your company to thrive. So,
yep, exactly.
Good key aspect. Well, I appreciate your time. If you could, do me a favor, Dr. Burd, flash me the book one more time. I want to show everybody the natural solution to the diabetes epidemic. There it is right there, everybody. We're going to have a link in the description. Click on the link, get your copy of the book, and change your life, save somebody else's life. Read the book.
I didn't mention we also, in addition to Lysulin, we also have a home test for A1C. And this is a fabulous companion product because A1C is what your doctor uses to see how well your diabetes is being managed. And people that start Lysulin, they'll know if it's working for them in 2 weeks to a month. And that box has 4 tests in it. So you test yourself before you start. It takes a little finger stick of blood. Test yourself before you start, and then test yourself in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and it will show you if Lysulin's helping you. And as I said, it helps the majority of people who use it.
That's great. We got to make sure we add that on because there's nothing like having the data and the evidence to show you that something's working, right? You can't just go off a hunch.
Most supplements don't have something. If you take vitamin D, how do you know if it's doing any good or not? Well, how do you know if you're even taking vitamin D? That's the question. That's the first question. How do you know if you're even taking vitamin D? That's the first question. Yeah, well, I know I'm taking it because I actually buy it. I had my blood tested and I was a little bit low in vitamin D. So I take, in addition to Lysulin, I also take vitamin D and fish oil. So, there's a lot of things supplements can help with your health because when we process food, we take a lot of the ingredients we need are removed. Yeah. So anyway. Yeah. Okay.
Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time. I want to remind everybody out there, if you can dream it, you can achieve it. Until next time.
That's great. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Success Leaves Clues podcast. Be sure to follow Dr. K on Instagram at Dr. K Washington or the podcast page at Success Leaves Clues Podcast. We'll see you here next time.